So the Culturevators exists really to respond to a painful realisation that I had a couple of years ago, where after my 25 years as an HR professional, I probably contributed to some pretty ineffective, unhelpful, and dare I say, toxic workplace cultural practices. Culture exists whether you put intention into it or not. Culture is simply a word that describes how do we actually do things around here. But what then gets missed is the translation of, if you want people to be something, they've got to feel something. How people feel will ultimately determine how they behave and how they show up. Let's challenge what goes on in our kind of cognitive thinking and start bringing this into emotional data, because that's what it is. And people get scared of it because it's like, oh, emotions in the workplace, that's soft and fluffy. And it isn't. Emotions are data, and they drive so much around how people behave.
I think there's an ongoing conversation around how much of yourself do you bring to work? Can you truly bring everything about you into the workplace, no matter what's going on in your life? Well, Sarah, welcome to the 1 Million Conversations podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here with you.
So we haven't known each other long at all, really, probably only 3 or 4 months. But the first sort of one-to-one interaction that we did have a 3-hour epic conversation. So I'll try and keep this one a little bit shorter, but I felt like I really got to know you in that 3-hour conversation, both as a businesswoman, but also as a person as well. For the audience listening or watching, can you just set the scene for us as to who you are and what you're currently doing in your professional world?
Okay, I'll do my very best, but I'm going to start by making an observation about the fact that you know me very well in 3 hours of epic conversation, as you described it. And I'm still not sure I know myself at the ripe old age of 48. So I'm impressed that your conversation was able to give you a feeling of knowing me that well. But yes, I am Sarah Dena. I am the Managing Director of New Wave Learning. And I am also the co-founder of the Culturevators. So these organisations really sit in the space that encompasses everything I'm passionate about and everything I kind of value, really. First and foremost, learning. So New Wave Learning is what I call a traditional management and leadership development consultancy. I am the proud owner of New Wave Learning since July 2024. And I actually started out as a consultant with New Wave Learning after redundancy from my corporate job. So New Wave Learning has a very special place in my heart, and it allows me to work with professional services clients who are looking for engaging, interactive learning for their future leaders but they want something that is not tick box and compliance driven. They're really looking for people to understand their behaviour, create that self-awareness in how they show up, how they interact, and how they get the best out of everyday practices like communicating with clients and teams, collaborating across what are normally very siloed organisations with the size of clients that we work with. So that's what New Wave Learning spends most of its time doing. The Culturevators has really become, it was really a passion project that has now taken over my life and will soon be the main focus of my entrepreneurial vision and mission. So the Culturevators exists really to respond to a painful realization that I had a couple of years ago, where after my 25 years as an HR professional, either in the kind of traditional employee relations HR stuff, or more recently when I moved over to learning and development, that as a professional, I probably contributed to some pretty ineffective, unhelpful, and dare I say, toxic workplace cultural practices, because of the role I was in and the reality that HR often, more often than not, toes the company line. And that really hit me when I had that realization that, my God, I've probably held up some practices that have made workplaces feel less than ideal for the individuals that are working in it. I did not feel good about that. I really didn't feel good about that. And because I had started a journey of understanding the emotional culture of workplaces through learning more about that and the work I do as a certified practitioner with riders and elephants, and we use the emotional culture deck, I wanted to fix that. I wanted to I wanted to do something to fix that and make sure that organizations, particularly SMEs, leaders and founders, start out from a place of, let's create the conditions that people need to feel so that they can deliver the experience that they want to create for their clients. So I'm in the final phases of really getting into like, who are the cultivators? Why do we exist? What do we do? Who do we help? I am almost there. So I'm really excited to come and talk to you today, because I think that given our epic conversation, some of the questions you asked me today will help me refine that even further. So yeah, really excited to be sharing that. Sorry, that's not an easy, I do this,
No,
I do
I
that.
love it.
But it's not what you get from me.
No, I love it. That's so good. And this is a big question, but when we talk about culture, and particularly culture in the workplace, what do we mean by that? Because I think lots of people have no idea what we mean by culture. Some people think it's table football tables and free fruit and unlimited coffee and tea and like fancy teas and stuff. But what do we actually mean by culture? Like, how would you describe it?
Beautiful question. So culture can be all of those things if you want it to. It's just whether you're willing to admit that that's not the most effective way for your culture to be described. So yeah, the cultivators, we kind of make fun of the beanbags and pizza party cultures.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, the effectiveness of those. However, there will be organisations and there will be groups of people that come together to serve a purpose where that stuff is important to them and it matters. So for me now, and again, I was quite kind of judgmental about that when I started this piece of work. I was like, oh, beanbags. I remember
Mm-hmm.
I remember the office manager. Oh my God, I'm going back like 30 years now. Am I going back 30 years? Yeah, I am. God, I'm that old. It was my first HR job. And I remember the office manager coming round our building with a fruit basket.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like the most exciting thing. She put a fruit basket out every Friday morning on every floor. We
Mm-hmm.
had 6 floors in this building. And the proudest moment of her week was going around and filling up the fruit baskets on a Friday. And I can remember it now. I can see her face. I can remember the feeling. And even then, I remember thinking, this is really dumb. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is really dumb. Like, there's something so cliched about it. And we weren't even doing it, we're talking a long time ago. But as I sat and watched, because my desk, you had to pass my desk outside the HR director's office, you had to pass my desk to get to the fruit basket. And my goodness, what that fruit basket did to make people stop, get up from their
Mm-hmm.
desks, come round and grab a piece of fruit and say hi to each other and have a bit of a chat, it was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Because those conversations, those moments of breaking, like, they wouldn't have happened if she wasn't putting out the free fruit.
Yeah.
So that it's kind of a memory that sort of makes me laugh now about the judgment I held on Fruit Basket Friday. And I still do hold judgment, when I go into organisations now and I see the pool table or I see the cool like hangout space that they've got. I look at it with a different lens now. I kind of look at it as what is this allowing for, and is it intentional to the culture of this organisation? Is it creating something that allows them to uphold their habits, rituals, systems of connection, communication, collaboration? Is it doing those things with clear intention, or is it a glossy facade over, we'll do all of these things because we know it's a bit shit to work here?
And are there rules around how you even use the pool table?
Absolutely. Yeah. Rules of engagement. Absolutely. So I think, to go back to your question, which was around the definition of culture, culture exists whether you put intention into it or not. Culture is simply a word that describes how do we actually do things around here. So the values are, everybody works, in my opinion, unnecessarily hard on defining their company values. But we still do it. Because it's cognitive, right? It's like we understand it. It's a head activity. So it's like, right, we need to define our values. Our values need to be clear. Everybody needs to understand them. They will be how we show up to our clients and our our external stakeholders. So it's really important that we have these things. But what then gets missed is the translation of, if you want people to be something, which is typically what a value is describing. It's a being, it's a behaving type, an action word. So if you want people to be something, in order for them to be that thing, they've got to feel something. Because how people feel will ultimately determine how they behave and how they show up. So to give you an example, so I'm not talking in riddles because I often do that sometimes. If you want people to act with integrity, first of all, which is one of the most common values I see, if you want people to act with integrity, they need to feel safe to speak up when something doesn't feel right. Yeah. And actually, I'd go a little bit further than that to say it's not just about feeling safe. They also have to feel brave, because there's one thing about feeling safe when you feel comfortable. But if you comfort will not take you to the place which is actually going to challenge, because that's when things start to feel uncomfortable or you start to feel some discomfort. So you actually, if you want people to have integrity and act with integrity, then you have to also create the conditions for them to feel both safe and brave. So the bit of work that gets me excited, and the bit of work that the Culturevators is here to help with, is that translation. So these are the values you've paid a lot of money probably to come up with through various external consultants and internal workshops. Now let's turn them into something that people can feel. Because if they feel them, they will get on board with them and understand what they need to do to deliver on those. They'll become memorable, not just for your clients, because let's be honest, when you were buying something, when was the last time you went to the website and had a look at the company's core values?
Oh, never. I just pick what I want.
You might be checking out their socials, and their socials might make you feel a certain way, right? And that's what might prompt your purchase. So I'm really passionate and committed to getting the message out there that let's challenge what goes on in our kind of cognitive thinking and start bringing this into emotional data, because that's what it is. And people get scared of it because it's like, oh, emotions in the workplace, that's soft and fluffy. And it isn't. Emotions are data and they drive so much around how people behave. So if you don't put a competency framework in if you want to manage the behavior of your people. Talk to me about how we create the emotional culture that's going to make them feel the things that they need to feel in order to deliver what you need them to deliver. And I will stop.
It's so interesting that you used the word emotion, because I noticed on your LinkedIn profile, in your kind of tagline, you use the term emotional culture specialist. And I think there's an ongoing conversation around how much of yourself do you bring to work? Like if you've got a family member that is sick, for example, and you're worried about them, but not so much that you need to take the day off, but you have to come into work. Is it good for you and your colleagues for you to just push that down, for example, or can you truly bring everything about you into the workplace, no matter what's going on in your life outside of that office or whatever it might be?
Honestly, I think it has to be it depends answer. Because it really does depend on the conditions that you are part of. So for me, I do that because I have learned and I've understood that for me, I get the best out of myself and I create the conditions for the kind of relationships that I want and need around me, for that to be the best way for me to operate. But I have also been in environments that I'm now able to rationalize and to make better informed decisions about whether they're the right environments for me, because when I bring my true self, it doesn't always land well. And it's taken me a long time to come to the acceptance and understanding that that might be the risk. And it's very interesting that this question, because this is exactly the level of refinement that I am getting to around who we are and why we exist. Because being vulnerable and again, you have to assess like what's your risk, vulnerability is basically a personal risk that you take every day, or not every day because you might not, but being vulnerable is taking a personal risk to put something that matters to you into the hands of somebody else. So I'll give you a live example that's just happened today. I was at a workshop last week with a business coach type person. Done all, this person is very, very effective. And I've been around a lot of them. I've seen a lot of them in action. Where I'm at right now, if I got into a sales call with this person following their workshop, they would sell to me. And I would feel pressured into buying from them. They wouldn't be doing the pressuring, but I would feel pressured given where I'm at the moment. And so I got on a voice note this morning and I just said, look, really appreciate the workshop, the value, what you've generated. I know you're good at what you do. And I also know I need to work with you, but here I am right now. And my voice was going, that's how vulnerable I was being. But what has happened as a result of that is they've called me straight back and said, my God, no one's ever been that honest with me before. I really want to work with you now. How can we come to an agreement where you don't feel pressured, but I'm involved in whatever the hell you're doing? Because if you can be that honest, you really know your stuff as an emotional culture specialist. Because you are living it. Like you are literally embodying what it is you do. Now, that's not for everybody, right? That is not going to be, that's my very personal journey. And I think it's really important that I say emotions do not mean everyone is sitting around holding hands, singing Kumbaya, that's not what this is about. It is about being able to make a simple choice to say, I'm gonna be a little bit distracted today because we just got news that a family friend isn't doing so well. I'm fine. I'm okay, but I'm going to be a little bit distracted. There's no tears, there's no breakdown, there's no need for a mental health first aider. There's no, it's just human. It's just being human, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just being human, being able to say, I'm a bit off today. Because I think what I've learned is the more honest you can be about where you're at, people have a better chance to know where they can meet you. And most of us, not everybody, but most of us want to be helpful. Most of us are good people and we want to show kindness and compassion to those around us. Somewhere, somehow, the organisational workplace has almost become a place where that doesn't happen anymore. I mean, again, it's not everywhere. There are some workplaces that are doing some phenomenal stuff around this, and I think demonstrating that if you commit to doing this work and if you commit to creating conditions where people can be more vulnerable, be more honest, challenge respectfully, if you create those spaces, then you have better results. Your clients get a better service, and you have more loyal clients who talk to other people about you. So the proof is there. These organizations that do this well get the results. It's just how willing their leaders are to do the work that ultimately is required of them.
Yeah, because I guess we always follow the example that other people are setting, whether it's the CEO of the organization or the person that sat next to us. If we see them being vulnerable or just sharing something about their life beyond, oh, I went to watch the football at the weekend, then we feel that sense of, I want to get to know you a little bit. I want you to understand me a little bit better. And then we go from there. And I guess that goes back to what you were saying about sometimes you maybe make a mistake in choosing a working environment. You take that job at this company and you realize actually it's not what you thought, and the culture doesn't fit with the way that you like to be as a human being and the way that you like to show up when you're at work.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I'm a little bit envious of the next generation coming into the workplace for. They are, and I'm not big into generational labels, so I'm not going to label this group because I love smashed avocado on toast as much as the next millennial, but I'm not a millennial. So I'm not going to stereotype, but the next generation of leaders are coming in with a different attitude, and they are coming in with a real understanding of their personal values. And there's people like me who are a little bit like, oh, really? You are you? Okay, well, I didn't come into the workplace that, a job was a job, and I was grateful that I could get a job at your age, and I had to work, I had to like really work hard to fit in. There's a lot of that kind of, fit in or fuck off, that sort of, like you earn your stripes like I did, and I'm going to put you through the hell that I work a lot in professional services, so there's the kind of trainee through to partner hierarchy that is at play, and that's common across most professional services organizations, right? So, you've got to earn your stripes. You've got to do the late nights and you've just got to do that, because that's how I got to the dizzy heights of leadership. And it's bullshit, right? It's like I'm so excited that this generation is coming in, knowing who they are, knowing a little bit more about knowing a lot more about what's important to them, and making informed decisions about matching that up. I almost sort of describe my generation as, was a little bit like the lost generation, in the sense of we just got into jobs because we did. It was easy to get, it's easier than it is now to come out of university, go into a job, and work your way up. And now there, how many people in my sort of age group leaving corporate, leaving work, and setting up for autonomy, flexibility, control over our own destiny, because we've suddenly discovered that this is even possible. People are going in with a different approach to what's important to them, and they are making decisions about that. So I think this, it for me, it puts again another value that it's not seen that much, but it's starting to be seen more because of how much change we are all subject to every single day. But this idea of adaptability, you have to now be, as an organization, the way you do things, the culture you create in your organization has to be more adaptable, because for the first time ever, you've got 5 generations in workplaces.
Yeah.
So what works for one group of people is not necessarily going to work for another. And how are you going to know that? How are you going to manage that potential friction, tension? And I like tension. I think tension is a good thing. But how are you going to manage that if you don't have a mechanism to allow personal connection with your managers and leaders and the teams that they are serving?
And I guess also just the willingness and the curiosity to try to understand the 21-year-old that's coming into the workplace. It's the same thing that you would do with your grandchild. If you were late 60s and you've got your grandchild, say 21, you would probably spend the time to get to know them as a person. What makes them tick? What do they enjoy? Why do they not identify with this way of working? But sometimes when you're the 60-plus-year-old CEO, you maybe don't do the same thing with the youngsters who are coming into your organization. And I have this term that I'm starting to use, which is like being a curious conversationalist I'm using, which is just when I'm in front of someone, I want to be curious about them. I want to ask the questions to get to know them a little bit more, as opposed to just blanket come up with an opinion based on some weak questions that I've asked you and therefore some fairly standard answers that I'm getting back from you.
So I think there's a layer. I think there's a layer before curiosity, and I think that layer is more because curiosity feels comfortable, right? It feels nice to say I'm a curious person. Am I prepared to accept and acknowledge that I have bias?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think before curiosity, there has to be a cognizance of your bias.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that, your curiosity will still be looking for the things that your bias says you believe in, or it will still be it will be interfered with. Your curiosity will be interfered by your bias. So this takes me kind of into the space of inclusive leadership, and I've done a lot of work with Deloitte's 6 signature traits of an inclusive leader. I stepped away from that work actually, and it's quite nice to come back to it and have a look at it and just think about it for a moment in that, because we used to talk about this. There are 6 C's of inclusive leadership defined by Deloitte. 2 of them are curiosity and cognizance of bias. And when I taught them, 3 years ago now, when I taught them, we would always kind of describe them as equal. But what your question there has just done is almost start to put some priority. Like you can be curious, but if you're curious without cognizance of bias, how truly impactful is your curiosity going to be? Or intentional? Because it will be impactful, but how intentional? There's a difference between intent and impact. So how intentional is your curiosity? And then when I start to think about creating those safe and brave spaces, it all has an impact.
Yeah.
Because a leader can present as curious, but how does that curiosity make us feel? Because if the curiosity is felt as interrogation, lack of trust, riding my ass because I've missed a couple of deadlines, that curiosity does not make for a good feeling.
Yeah.
And that in turn is going to affect the behavior that leader sees afterwards. So yeah,
I hadn't thought about that, but intent is everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, intent is one part of a very important bridge in communication. So we have an intent. Every one of us comes to a conversation with an intention. And I think, again, the more effective you want to be as a contributor in whatever way you contribute to your organization or a conversation, set your intention. What do you want to feel, and how do you want to make someone else feel in this conversation? Set that intention. Your intent will create an impact. The impact is not yours to define. The impact is felt by the other person.
Yes.
And I am intentionally holding these 2 things apart, because what do you create? A gap. So your intent will create an impact. And I think each of us should be responsible for minding the gap that gets created between those 2 things. Sometimes your intent and your impact will be very aligned, so it will fall together and the gap is minimal. Great job. Well done. Oftentimes, more often than not, and people choose to ignore this because it doesn't feel good or it feels uncomfortable, our intent creates a gap where the impact is felt very differently from what we intended. And I was going to say best, but I'm trying to not. The leaders that I hold up as what I now describe as the cultivating leader, the leaders that I have had the honor and privilege to work for, are the people that mind that gap. They don't prevent themselves from creating it, but when they notice a gap has happened or a gap has occurred, they get right in there and figure it out. And they learn from it. We learn through it. We learn through it together. They learn from it. They adapt they figure out new courses of action, and make commitments not to try to not let that happen again. And that's an example of what the cultivating leader means for me, is someone who notices when there is a gap and gets into the gap to sort it out.
Do you think we're in a strange place, I feel, in the world in terms of where we're actually working? Because we're 3 to 5 years out of COVID, depending on how you want to look at it. And there are some companies that love remote and they're fully remote. They have no office anymore. Then there's the companies that want everyone back in the office. And then there's a lot that are kind of got one foot in either camp, and that works for now, and they're not quite sure where they want to go. Are we in a challenging time for leaders because there's so much, I guess, geographical change around around where we're working? And how do you then, if you have got half your team remote, or if you're a fully remote team, how do you create that sense of culture and connection? And how do you make sure your intent is known, the right intent is known, when we communicate a lot over email and Teams and Slack and those kind of text-based connection platforms?
Yeah, it's a really, a great conversation point. So I do feel like it is the most challenging time to be a leader. I'm finding it myself. Like I have set about my whole career saying I would never want to be I never want to be a people manager or a people leader. I don't know why, having sat in the car crashes of meetings between managers and their teams as an HR professional, why anyone wakes up and go, hey, I want to be a leader. Like well, again, there's differences between leaders and managers and so on and so forth. That's not what your question is about. Let's just take that geographical where people work. I'm personally very clear on this. It should not matter. It should not matter. However, it continues to matter. So my curiosity goes to the why does it matter? And for me, it's simple. You are either somebody who trusts or you're somebody who can't or doesn't. If trust is your thing, you will find a way.
Yeah.
You will find a way to make this work. If you don't trust, then you are simply in command and control, which is where, and again, you're in command and control of what? What data are you trying to control? It's the financial data that is telling you have 5 office buildings that are costing you a shitload of money right now.
Yeah.
And you have 20% occupancy in the number of people that come to that building. Financially, it is hurting you. So what do? You force people to come back to the office so that you have an acceptable occupancy rate, and the financial data that you are tracking feels better for you. It looks better.
Yeah.
And that's that for me is the fundamental difference. It's what data are you tracking and what data matters to you. I'm not going to say more or most because the financial data is important. My point is that there is an emotional data landscape happening in every organization. And if they would just get into that for a bit, their financial performance would improve. But this emotional data that is just, it's currency in their organization that they're just missing. That's the bit that kind of gets me around this. Where do we work? Because if you are delivering the expected output, why should I care where you do it from? And even where should I care what hours of the day you do it from?
Yeah. See, this is really interesting.
As long as you are... Go for it, James.
So the whole hours thing is super interesting. And I have this conversation with my wife sometimes because on the one hand, let's say you're based in the UK as we are, your clients are typically online between 9 and 5. does that mean that your team should be online 9 to 5? Or if Jack does his best work at 8 p.m. till 10 p.m. and kind of works a day in front of everybody else, so he still hits deadlines, is that okay? Like, how would you broach those conversations? Because it kind of continues on from what you were saying about, being stuck in the sort of 9 to 5 working pattern.
Well, let's just tackle that bit first, right? So, one of my favorite taglines to use: culture over compliance.
Mm-hmm.
We work, and again, I can only speak from a UK perspective right now. So I just want to. I'm sure that your listeners will be, far-reaching, but from a UK perspective and from an employment perspective, we have contracts which are a set number of hours for a set amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to stop. Your output is this, and we will pay you for that output. How you get it done, where you get it done, when you get it done. If you have a high trust culture and you have the systems, I'm not saying that you just, again, I know that there will be people listening to this going, this woman lives on cuckoo land. I really don't. I really don't. If you have the right conversations, again, the right strategy, the right culture, the right strategic communications, and you have the systems and platforms, and technology is a massive enabler for this. But if people have clarity over what they're expected to do, what they will receive for doing that, and the way in which they get it done, the how they do it, people will get on and get done. And they'll do it more. They'll be more loyal to you because they're able to do it in a way that, again, makes them feel good. And it isn't just about making them feel good, because what it will do for them is it will lock in their loyalty on a different level. So they will know when they need to give a bit more because the shit hits the fan, and as it always does, they will do that willingly because they know that they're being taken care of. They are being taken care of. So this whole fixation we have comes from a compliance issue. We have contracts that say you will work for us for 40 hours a week and we will pay you a salary of X. So we quantify the employment relationship in that hourly rate of in an hourly rate of pay. Now, again, just as with the whole work from home debate, there will be people listening to this, I'm sure, who are in industries where this is how the work is delivered, and we can't change that. So if you are, the care sector is coming to mind, teaching is coming, those professions. There's some of these things we can't change. Teachers could not work from home during COVID, right? Doctors and nurses could not work from home during COVID. I get it. There are limitations. I am but they are also not my clients, right? So I want to just kind of contract around what I'm, the perspective I'm coming. But I still very much believe that emotional culture work would be very valid in those environments. It's just not I tend to focus more in professional services. So let's go back to let's broaden that out. We sort of accept that part of this is culture over compliance with the contractual element of it. The example you gave about the guy that works ahead of because he does his best work, that has to come down to your communication and collaboration system. What is your culture of communication? What is your culture of collaboration? Because if the client can accept, let's not even accept, if the client gets what they want and they are none the wiser as to how the team delivers it, and if the client can knows how to get in contact with somebody at a time and a way that is convenient for them, and they are satisfied, again, who cares?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, some people might say, I've oh my goodness, I've had when I'm trying to I can't remember what piece of employment legislation it was. I think it might have been the first time people were able to request flexible working, or women were able to request flexible working when they came back from maternity leave.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the HR pros listening are going to be going, she don't know what she's talking about. I think it might have been them. I was like an HR coordinator when that happened. And I remember the uproar from managers going, but if I do it for her, I'm going to have to do it for everyone. And we had to I remember having to write a policy that sort of talked about, that talked this stuff. Like, and it was just like, I, I love the fact that I'm now we are in a time where more and more people want to almost bring common sense back to the workplace.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
let's not manage through a policy that basically tells you every single, like, if the person says this, it's yes. If it's said, like a flow diagram of management. Like, wouldn't it be amazing if managers were just empowered to be and to respond to the people in their team in a human way,
Mm-hmm.
with care and common sense?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I do live in cuckoo land. I don't know, but I believe it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I have this issue with the term human resource because it suggests that you're managing resources in the same way that you manage your stock levels and you're making bread and you need so many tons
Exactly what it is.
of flour and you need grease for the machines and stuff. There's no emotion in that
Yep.
process. You just need to know that the machines aren't going to stop running because you've run out of something. But human beings are human beings. You can kind of control them in some sense, and at a very top level, you know that this department's got 20 people in it and this department's got 10, and if 2 people leave, you need to hire 2 more people. But I feel like we try and I'm no HR expert, this is just from conversations I've had with people, but it feels like when an employee has an issue sometimes, out comes the book and it's all gobbledygook and we talk about this term and that clause and this clause, as opposed to just going, okay, Sarah, talk to me. What's happening? What's happening in your life? What are you struggling with right now that I can help you with, before I pull out my ruler and slap you around the wrist and kind of go, just get on with it because you're in breach of contract. I mean, actually, this is interesting because I guess if you're willing to go there, it'd be interesting to go back to your work in HR and why you decided, what the catalyst was to leaving that environment. I wonder if there was something that happened that made you kind of go, oh, this isn't working anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. So I and yeah, it's a very clear moment. So the software company that I was working for I'd actually been seconded to head up the HR function in Australia. And
Mm,
whilst I was there, um IBM acquired the software company that I was working for. Um, I had applied for a graduate training position at IBM when I left university, and they didn't accept me. so, so I
interesting.
immediately had a very emotional I had a very emotional reaction to finding out that IBM were going to acquire us. And when one of the things I loved about the size of the software organization I was working for is, of course, we had policy,
Mm,
but it was never what ran. It informed the conversations, but it didn't
mm,
drive them or dictate them. And I think that was slightly kind of the Australian culture as well, was very people first, I would say. Um, and so there was always, that kind of conversation, which was, right, what do we want to do for this person? And I'm not an advocate for the work family hashtags. I'm really not,
No,
because families typically are fairly dysfunctional when you start to
massively.
unpack it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not a big fan of the work family movement, but I am a big advocate for, we are a team, and if we truly believe we're a team, then if somebody can't somebody is struggling to contribute at 100% to that team, we need to figure out how we take the slack while we get them through whatever it is that they are going through. So that I call it now, it is called companionate love
Mm-hmm.
in the workplace. And again, there's not everywhere I would say that, but I feel safe to share it with you because I think you'd get it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there is this thing called companionate love, and that's really what that is talking about. How do we take care of the people that we care about
Mm-hmm.
when they are struggling? So IBM looked like a very different proposition. One of the first things we were shown as the HR team was all of the processes and all of the policies and all of, it was very kind of, they were very kind of forward thinking at the time. So there was a lot of self-serve HR. There was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of go to this portal and find out what you're allowed to do when your grandmother dies. Um, as an example.
Yeah.
Um, and that to me just went, nah, I'm done. And I think as well, the thing that you said about human resources, I mean, it was personnel and administration when I joined, I think, and we evolved to human resources. The other term that came to my mind when you were talking about human resources was employee relations.
Mm-hmm.
So when I decided to leave what I call operational HR, it was at that time of the IBM acquisition and me seeing a real move from people to process
Mm-hmm.
and policy. But it was also a shift for me in this idea of employee relations was nothing more than, how do we how do we make the outcome compliant with whatever law exists. um the relation part of employee relations had gone for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel the world deeply, and I couldn't feel it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I really couldn't feel it anymore. I'd had enough. So at that point, I decided that I was not an HR person. But I knew I wanted to make an impact and make a difference in another way. So I just took a side glance, and there was learning and development. So it was still part of the people profession. It was still part of the people function. But in learning and development, I saw an opportunity to have an impact in the way managers and leaders were managing and leading. So even if we had to go with policy, even if we had to go with compliance, I saw through learning and development an opportunity to not influence the what, which is what HR were doing. They were writing the policies and doing, the compliance piece. Learning and development became a how. It was like, well, if
Mm-hmm.
they're going to have to do these things, at least let me develop their skills and confidence to do it in a way that is, that sort of counters the
Mm-hmm.
compliance policy procedure,
Mm-hmm.
management by numbers. At least let's
Mm-hmm.
try and let me try and have an influence in there. So that's kind of where I have never strayed far from, I'm still part of the HR profession, but
Yeah.
that was the turning point for me.
Mm. You mentioned earlier that there's this feeling that HR works for the company as opposed to the employees. And I've got a number of people in my life who work at very large companies, and they've had challenges with co-workers or managers or whatever it might be, and they will not go to HR. They don't feel safe at all going to HR. And I've worked with big corporates in the work that I do, but I haven't worked in a big corporate. So I don't know, but it baffles me that you can't go to the department that is set up to handle those things. Like what? And I appreciate you're sort of not day to day in HR anymore, but what can HR do to make people feel comfortable coming to them? Or does it, as we talked about already, does it come down to the individuals within the HR team building those relationships with the rest of the company, however you do that?
God, there's so much I want to unpack in what you've just asked me. Right. So, so I have worked with HR professionals who are exemplary in building trusted and trusting relationships with the managers and leaders that they are kind of aligned to support. So HR business partnering as a model with the right people in those partnering roles is phenomenal. But that's the point. I used to say that when I was really young and naive and even more than I am now, I used to I had this like vision in my head that I would be like, I want to make HR redundant. Like my job, I want to go into every job I ever have as an HR professional, and I want to be made redundant, because if I'm being made redundant, I have made the managers and leaders that I support so good at how they take care of the people. They don't need an HR function anymore. That was my very naive philosophy about it all. And I'm sort of challenging myself now. How naive is that? Because actually that is exactly what I do now for SME leaders and founders. So I want to work with ambitious scaling founders who are ready to kind of accept the growth that is coming their way. But I don't want them to be the first decision they make as they start to grow a team bigger than they can directly manage themselves is they outsource that function by putting in an HR person. Because that is exactly what happens. So the organization grows to a size where there are so many people, and the automatic structure is we need an HR team. So you put an HR team in, and that team suddenly then becomes responsible for all of the people functions or the people interactions. And it's wrong. It's just wrong. That's not fair on them. It's not fair on them to be responsible for it all. And it devolves the responsibility from the managers and leaders. So the business partnering model goes a step to challenging that, because the business partnering model for HR means that the HR person is guiding, advising the manager leader. They are less about an individual with a problem coming to them. The idea is that the manager and leader is the person that the individual goes to, and then the HR business partner is available for guidance and advice. My first HR director, she was amazing. I just remember in my interview, she just said to me, this is how I run HR. If people want tea and sympathy, go and find your friend and go and, go to a cafe and have a chat with your friend. If you want tea and sympathy, that's not the kind of HR department we are. And that really was, that was my grounding. That's why I hold the values that I'm talking about now so true, because that's kind of how I was nurtured in HR as a function. But I have also seen HR teams thrive with that kind of tea and sympathy, #work family, #dream team. And for me, if you can understand the culture of an HR team within an organization, you will understand the culture of the organization.
Yeah, big time.
The subculture of an HR team tells you a lot about what really goes on in that place.
So I'd love, if you're willing to go there with me, to talk about children momentarily. And the reason I want to go there is I'm curious as to whether there are things that you are doing with your two girls to, I guess, get them thinking about how to be leaders, if that's something that they want to be. Because I think we might have had a conversation about this before, but I noticed on your LinkedIn, 2016, there's a company called Mama on a Mission to create leadership development for children. And I'm just curious, what are you doing, if anything, with your girls and maybe the other children, their friends that you come into contact with? I'm curious how you feel about that now.
Ooh, okay, so how I feel about it right now is I feel a bit embarrassed and a bit ashamed. Is
Okay.
how I feel about it right now, because yes, I do have Mama on a Mission, and I have done nothing. I have done nothing with that mission. So I feel embarrassed and I feel ashamed about that right now. But it's so one of the things that I have come to realize, if you want to do anything with impact, anything with real, lasting, meaningful impact on a big scale, you need money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is almost raw. I'm going to be really honest about that. This is almost raw. Um, in order for me to achieve the things that I want, that I set out to do with that Mama on a Mission idea 10 years ago, I need to be in a position where I can make profit for purpose. And I've been kidding myself for a really long time that I can do everything and not make any money, and it's just not, it's not viable. It is not viable. So what I am working towards doing now is to look at how we create like a charitable giving model that allows us to help other parents, through the work they do, raise their children to be more emotionally intelligent and emotionally confident. Because I don't have bandwidth to do it as a program myself right now. So my operational model for growing the Culturevators becomes a way of achieving that through creating opportunities for men and women like me who care about emotional culture, get it as a proposition, and want to come and work with me to establish their own region of the Culturevators where they want to work and live.
Yeah.
And so I see then that by them being able to earn a living and run run a business themselves, doing that work, if they are me, they will have the children themselves who will benefit from that learning. So it's not a completely crystal clear proposition, as you can probably tell from my answer. But it's something that I still care deeply about. But it is a regret. It is a regret that Mama on a Mission did not become what I intended for it to be when I thought about it back in 2016. God, 9 years ago.
But maybe it's something, as you say, that you can do it in a slightly different way through the things that you're doing now. And if that is a kind of franchise model, which is essentially what you're describing, if that is another way of doing it, that takes a lot of the pressure off your shoulders, so you're not doing all of it alongside all the other work that you're doing as well, then you can have the impact that you want to have, but you don't need to be the one doing everything.
Yeah. Well, and I think as well, it's interesting when I think about my journey as a parent and what we were talking about from kind of corporate management perspective. There is no rule book for parenting. Just in the same way as, HR tries to create a process and policy manual that will help managers manage people. There are lots of people who have written books that would, lead you, if you there's a particular style of parenting you want to follow, but there is no one definitive guide. And as my children get older, I'm realizing, and we are in this right now, I am realizing that, again, the emotional, or no, it's not the emotional, it's the tension that exists between a parent and a child. It is why there is a communication framework that the name of it escapes me right now. Someone will be listening to this and screaming it at me. But there is there's a whole communication communication framework, parent, child, adult. Like, there is a reason that gets talked about as a communication model in the corporate world, because everything I have as a professional, everything I talk about when I am with my clients, suddenly becomes a very different experience and proposition when I try to talk to my 14-year-old daughter. The stakes are different. Different. The emotions are different. But saying that, my 11-year-old daughter, she's very emotionally literate for an 11-year-old, and I do put that down to the fact that I ask feeling questions more, and I've given her a deck of cards that I use with my clients, and I will know when she's ready for a bit of a debrief, because she'll get the cards out and she'll literally go, "Oh, today I've had a right day of it today. I felt this." And she'll go through all 100 and something cards, and she'll basically be able to tell me everything she felt during the day. And we've almost, with her, I feel like I've almost normalized that process of acknowledging that emotions are simply data. They are not good or bad. Some emotions are desired to feel, like we want to feel some emotions, and other emotions are undesired. We want to avoid them. But they're all welcome. They're all equal. They don't make us a bad person because we feel an undesired emotion. It's all data. It's all insights, and we can figure stuff out. And it's opened up conversations that, feel very very special in the moment, because you get to have an influence over you get to influence how your child will lead others because of their emotional literacy and their confidence in talking about, or not talking about, their emotions. And again, that's a phrase I think we need to move away from. Setting their intentions around how they want to feel, and understanding that it's okay to set a boundary. If somebody makes me feel something I don't want to feel, it's okay to have a boundary around that. And it's okay to make some decisions based on that. It's okay to do that. And whether she goes on to be a leader or not, just, we're all leaders in our own right. We're leading ourselves through this thing called life.
Yeah.
She will do that, I believe, more effectively as a result of the work I do with her at home. But yeah, I'm standing here now thinking, I wonder whether doctors treat their own children when they have an ailment. Like, when their child like, how does that feel when a doctor has a sick child? How does it feel? Yeah, I don't know. I've never asked anyone about that, but yeah, it does. It definitely takes on a different. It's a different dynamic. So I actually find it very challenging to apply what I do at work with my kids at home.
Do they ask you what you do?
But I'm trying
for a job. Do they ask you questions?
No, not really.
I mean, they're teenagers, so they probably don't care because they're teenagers. But like, do they understand what you do
they do.
and think? No.
I'm sure that something is going in. But if I'm honest, my one of the reasons I work around my kids. So I do, I have a lot of my conversations when they are not at home, and my kids are very busy outside of school as well. So then they're actually not. They don't witness it. It is like, you go to work, you come home. They don't really see it. So yeah, it's not. But again, it's one of those things. It's when you get asked questions about it, you think, God, what more could I be doing? What more could I make them understand? Because one of the reasons I'm building, I'm putting so much effort into creating a version of a business that I they don't have to work in the business, but if they choose to, there will be a place for them. And even if they never work in it, I want to build a business that will sustain a lifestyle for them. That means they can make choices about what they do. So they can, they can follow things that they really want to follow and not have to perform in jobs because of the money. So maybe I should be making a little bit more, especially with the older one, maybe I should be thinking a little bit more about how I talk about my work.
What do you think about, or do you think about what the workplace will look like when they're ready to enter it? Because I guess they're both quite a way off, but your 14-year-old, I don't know if schools still do work experience when you get to 16, but in 2 years' time, there's obviously the possibility that she might be able to go and work somewhere for 2 weeks. Like, I know I did, and I'm sure you did as well when you were at school. Do you think much about what the workplace might look like for them?
All the time. I don't just think about what it will look like for them. I am building a business that will design and engineer not just what workplaces look like, but how workplaces feel to be part of. So yeah,
How do you?
all the time.
I want to ask you briefly about AI because I saw this video.
Okay.
I saw this video on TikTok, which is a great way to say it's probably fake and a load of bullshit. But this guy was talking about how his manager was an AI. And I'm sure there's something lost in this video, but is it far-fetched to think that in 10 years' time, your manager could be an AI person, or do you think that's never going to happen?
I have some of the deepest, most profound and transformational conversations with my ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And the the reason I'm able to do that is because of learning and development. So I have spent 2 years working, investing, learning myself, playing, trial and error, blah, 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 to, to create an environment that I can do that, and I can get meaningful responses and interaction. So do I believe it's possible? Yes, I do. Do I want that future? No, I don't.
No.
I don't want that future, but I believe it's possible. So I feel a sense of responsibility, again, particularly in the SME space. I feel a sense of responsibility to achieve my mission, to live my purpose, and create workplaces where being human and feeling human is what makes the organization successful.
I like that.
Now is the time. Now is the time. Because if I don't do it now, then what is possible will happen, and it will happen without education. It will happen without ethics. But it will happen. I feel myself sort of repeating myself when it comes to culture is going to happen whether you set about making it intentional or not. When people come together, they create a culture. As a founder of a business, as a leader in a business, you want to make sure that culture is healthy. Healthy for them as a group of people, healthy for your clients, healthy for profits, right? That's your responsibility. You have to make that happen, because culture will appear anyway. If you set about making a culture that doesn't work for the people that are part of it, that's where you get toxic cultures. So it will happen. I can see an argument that applies exactly, directly links to everything you've just asked me there around AI. It will happen. But should it?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? No, I don't think so either. I think there's going to be a lot of things that AI can do and should do. And then I think we're always going to come back to connecting with other human beings and the importance of that.
Yeah. The issue is real, though. The risk and the issue is real. The more and more AI learns, the better it is getting at appearing at being human.
Yeah.
And it's frightening. It is frightening. It's really frightening. So yeah.
There's so many other things that I want to ask you, but I'm conscious of time because I know you have somewhere you need to be. I have a list of 6 quickfire questions that I want to take you through. But before I go there, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you would like to talk about?
No, and the reason I say that is because I'm a believer that when two people meet, the conversation goes where it needs to go.
I agree with that. I like that.
Yeah. It went where it needed to go. And I will make the observation that there are several things in this conversation that have made me think and feel something different than I was expecting. So I'm really grateful for that.
No, thank you. And thank you so much for talking to me so openly and sharing so openly. My hope with this podcast is that I want people to get a greater understanding of things that maybe they don't know anything about, even if it's just to understand it better and respect it, or maybe it inspires them to pursue it either as a career or as a hobby, whatever it might be. To So that's my hope of what we're doing. So yeah, I just want to say thank you for everything you shared with me. So
You're
I
very
mentioned
welcome.
twice now that I have 6 quickfire questions that I'd love to take you through if you're up for that.
Oh,
So
yes, of course.
they don't need to be one word answers. You can kind of chat for as long as you want on each point, but I'll just take you through them one by one. So the first question,
Okay.
what's been the most insightful conversation you've had recently and why?
My conversation with ChatGPT yesterday. My conversation with the bot I have built to help me build out my vision for the cultivators. Uh, uh, truths are being played back to me in that conversation that I've been squashing, ignoring for a long time. So yeah, I'm going to say it. The most
I love
insightful
that.
conversation I've had recently is the one I've been having with my ChatGPT bot about the
That's
future of my
amazing.
business.
And I'm sure you're not alone in that either. I've had many of good conversations with my chat GPT, and I'm sure lots of other people have as well. They're going to know everything about us, which is somewhat worrying.
Yeah, oh yeah. No, there's probably an AI lawyer or something listening to this, going, "Stop
Yeah,
talking."
I know.
Or it
So,
says a lot about the quality of conversations that I have been having with other people.
maybe they're not asking you the right questions. So,
Yeah, maybe.
question 2. What is one subject that you wish you knew more about?
Oh,
Either personally or professionally, doesn't matter which way.
that's a really good. I I can't think of a topic, but what I wish I I'm gonna give you my instinct answer,
Yeah.
which is not so because I am a very curious person, and if there's something I'm curious about, I will go and find out about it.
Mm.
What I'm not very good at is the follow through on that. So that's what came up for me, where it wasn't the topic, it was I wish I knew how to stick at something. So I'll give you an example. I was looking for something different to do with the kids over the last half term. Because it was just we needed some time away from screens, and we needed some connection. So I found a crochet class, like a
Mm-hmm.
crochet workshop in the local area. And my eldest daughter had like shown some interest in crochet a little while ago. She's very much like me. So we ordered a crochet kit, and we did a little bit, but we got a bit stuck, and we just put it away and didn't go back to it. So I went and I've never crocheted before in my life, and the teacher was like, "Wow, you're really quite good at this." And I carried on, and I brought it home, and I did it. But my wool finished, so I've got this beautifully crocheted piece of wool, fabric.
Mm.
It's about this long, but and then I've stopped it because I haven't got any more wool. And so I'm very good at going and finding out about things. I'm not very good at the follow up and sticking at it, and I wish I knew how to do that better.
Mm. Again, I think there's lots of people that would resonate with that, myself included.
Mm.
So, next question. What's one place that you visited that you'll never forget?
um oh, I've got lots, but the first one that came to my mind was the Taj Mahal in India.
Mm, yes, I would like to see that one day.
I Yeah, it's phenomenal. I mean, India in general as a place to visit is a place that I would encourage everybody to go and spend some time there. Um, but the the whiteness of that building, like the brilliance of it when the sun is
Mm,
shining on it, And it's so, it's huge, and the stature of it. But then when you understand the story, you understand the love story. It's just a bustling. I mean, it's it's a tourist destination, right? So it's full of people, but yet there is a space for everybody to find a moment of peace.
I like that. Question 4. Who would be one person that you haven't met yet, they're still alive, that you would love to have a conversation with, and why?
Barack Obama, because I love him.
He'd be fascinating to talk to.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, he would. So his his father was Kenyan. My husband is Kenyan. So I'm curious. I'm curious from a mixed race perspective. What that's like. I want to ask him, what does it feel like to know that somebody like me got up in the middle of the night, sat in my yet to be furnished flat in Swindon, and watched the election and watched your inauguration. Like, what does it feel like to know that people that don't really give I didn't really. I give more shits now about politics in the UK than I did back then in 2018. But I would not have done the same for a UK election. Like, how does that feel? Like, what was that like? What was it like growing? I'd love to talk to him.
Yeah, he'd have a lot to say, I think. I don't think he does many podcasts either. I certainly haven't seen him on the usual circuit, so be interesting.
Yeah.
Question 5.
Yeah, but he is the person.
Yes, I love that. Question 5. When did you feel most vulnerable?
Say that again?
When did you feel most vulnerable, or a time in your life that you felt most vulnerable?
Most vulnerable? Wow. I feel vulnerable pretty much every day. And this question is, that question's going to require a little bit more reflection from me on that, I'm afraid.
It's okay.
Because what's coming up for me is a moment when people would have expected me to feel I think society would expect me to say this answer, but I actually felt most strength in my most vulnerable
I get that.
time. And that was at the birth of my second daughter, who I was told it's very unlikely that she's going to make it through the night. So when you're faced with that level of vulnerability, I've gone into premature labour. There is nothing I can do to stop this. I am in the hands of the medical professionals around me, and they were incredible. I have to, and I'd given birth to my first daughter, so I knew how much I love the process of giving birth, and how strong that made me feel doing that the first time round, but then to do it the second time knowing that the baby probably wasn't going to survive. That's probably the most vulnerable, but I very quickly became something that I felt incredibly strong through.
Thank you for sharing that, because I'm sure there's lots of other men and women, but probably women that have gone through a similar experience and maybe weren't as mentally strong as you were.
No, and that's very true. Actually, it's not. So that right there was a moment of vulnerability, because When you think about what I said earlier in our conversation about what vulnerability actually is, I don't talk very much about that experience in my life because of how triggering it can be to other women, and out of respect, or not just women, men, as you say. But yeah, sort of out of respect for that and how my experiences may trigger others, I choose to remain relatively private about it. So yeah, that was a vulnerable moment kind of in my head going, I want to be honest, I want to be authentic, but I also understand what I'm about to say is not necessarily um, what others will have experienced.
Well, no, I'm grateful for you sharing that with me. So, final question. What is something that you've done in your life that you are most proud of?
Something that I've done in my life that I am most proud of. I struggle with pride.
Mm,
I really struggle with pride as an emotional state. I do feel very proud of the work I have done on myself as a result of becoming self-employed and getting to the point now 5 years later where I am on the cusp of I have not given up with this vision. I've 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 messed about with it, and I've got lazy with it, and I've got distracted by it, and I've done a whole ton of stuff, but I haven't fundamentally given up or given in. And
mm,
I am so close, and I am on the cusp of that. That does allow me to feel a sense of pride um, in myself.
mm. I love that. I love that. And you should definitely feel proud of yourself for that. I mean, as we said at the beginning, I've only known you for a few months, but in the interactions that we've had, I've always felt a massive sense of passion and energy from you, and also just I'm going to do this and I'm going to get shit done and this is going to happen. Like I never felt a sense of you were unsure about it. You always just had this aura of this is what I'm doing and I'm going to do it no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, that's sometimes been misguided, right? So that it's great to have that, and, but, yeah, like I said, profit over purpose or profit for
Mm,
purpose
yeah.
has to be my direction. Um,
Mm,
and I think, again, that I think I can also say that I'm proud of the person I'm becoming as a result of that journey.
mm,
I
mm.
wouldn't have I wouldn't have necessarily said that. Um, yeah. Yeah. I'm proud of the person I'm becoming.
That's really nice. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast and for, as I said before, for sharing so openly with me, but also the people listening as well. So I really appreciate you
Yeah.
coming on and sharing your wisdom and your knowledge with us all. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, James. I have been very excited about this because your questioning, in my opinion, is some of the best that I have experienced in a conversation for a while. Um, and I've also realised, I've come to realise, having started my own podcast recently, little plug for the Cultivating Leader podcast,
Mm-hmm.
um, that I actually enjoy being a guest on other people's podcast more than I enjoy hosting my own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you shared that with me. Shared that with me the other day, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. So thank you. So thank you for giving me space to do something that I have started to enjoy in a way that I didn't think I would.
You're very welcome. Thank you.